Hello, Valley Schuss fans. Welcome to video number 3, where Murray and I continue our conversation about the history of Valley Schuss. Tonight we get into the pictures, and I know that's what everybody's looking forward to. So you'll hear Murray and I discussing the different pictures that we're looking at. And there again, I think you'll be impressed with Murray's memory of all the detail of the pictures and the explanation of what we're looking at in the photographs from all those years ago. The other thing that I think you might find fascinating is the last time that I was in Orangeville in 2019 is when I discovered the Bruce Trail. And when I was walking across the Bruce Trail, in my mind, I was trying to, put the pieces of the puzzle together of where that actually ran across the old ski resort. And the thing that I found fascinating talking to Murray tonight and looking at one of the photos that he took, an aerial photo that he took, was my perception of where I thought I was on the ski resort. It wasn't very close to reality after talking to Murray and looking at this picture. Murray helped me basically figure out the orientation of the Bruce Trail, and there again, that's from his knowledge of every inch of that property. And so it was kind of a neat learning experience for me of where I actually was on the Bruce Trail, walking across what was the former ski resort versus where I thought I was back in 2019 when I was walking the Bruce Trail. So once again, my thanks to Murray Edwards for sitting down and taking the time with me to talk about the photographs. So without further ado, enjoy video number 3. Further ado, on the other end, I have Murray. Murray, good evening. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
All right. Well, it's good to have you on this evening. Hopefully, we'll have better luck tonight at with the Zoom, and we'll finish up the meeting when we want to on our terms. But with that being said, let's just move on. So we've talked about the development of the resorts, the first couple seasons. Moving into season 3, I should start maybe at the end of season 2. Was there any big plans or anything significantly that changed that now that you had a manager, Hans Henderson, managing the resorts, you kind of had some folks in place there. Was there any talk of doing anything different moving into you're preparing for the 3rd season, so going into the summertime?
Well, yes, there was, and I don't know the exact timing of this, but early on, we realized that people coming into the parking lot could not see any evidence of a ski resort. It was all hidden between the hills. And that meant a lot of people just turned around and went somewhere else. They couldn't see the ski slopes. So we said, well, we've got to have something visible. So it might even have been the 2nd year, we built our own little T-bar out of, Dad knew enough about various other manufacturers, and he and the little machine shop in Brantford cobbled together this funky T-bar, which worked more or less. It was not the best T-bar, but it was in use for, 8 or 10 years probably. And that meant people could see people skiing, on that lift. So we were always sure to have it operating early in the day and somebody skiing on it or whatever. It was a nice, much smaller hill, but it was visible. So we would encourage people to come a little farther and buy a ticket. That would have been maybe the 2nd year. Okay, so that you got my attention. So that was something that literally your dad designed from scratch. I mean, he kind of knew what lifts looked like, but I mean, he essentially built his own T-bar. I guess you could say it that way. I mean, he was a mining engineer. Yeah. And the rope tow had originally been built by a little machine shop in Brantford. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was from Holland, I think, a good machinist. And he made a lot of stuff, the rope tow originally, and worked on this T-bar with Dad. And it was probably just him and Dad figuring it out. The towers were made of worn out surplus gas pipeline pipes, about 10 inches in diameter. And they were so rusty you could see holes in them. But Dad knew that they would hold up in a vertical situation. So we just welded the holes up and made a made the T-bar towers with these things. Anyway, the lift had some tractor parts in it at the bottom. It had the final drive of a case tractor as a reducer from the electric motor to the bull wheel. So it was a homemade T-bar.
So when you said the bull wheel, so like some of the parts, like on each of the lift towers, they had I'm not sure the technical term, but the wheels where the cable ran through.
Idlers.
What are they called?
Idlers.
Idlers. What was like all those pieces available? So in other words, your dad knew what basically a lift consisted of.
Yeah, they were a common thing, I'm sure, in some industries. They were just a cast wheel with they were roller bearings in them, which was not all that common now, but and they would have been available, in Toronto, no problem. And the bull wheel was made by a company called Ferrano, which was a huge outfit that made, of all things, the big wheels that go at the top of mine hoists. So Dad would have been very familiar with that kind of machinery.
Yeah, interesting. So basically, he sourced the materials and kind of probably did his own sketch / blueprints. And
I don't know about prints, but it wasn't all that high tech. You could just do it by the seat of your pants. But he had a machinist on board. He was a welder as well. So he and Dad, as far as I can remember, just basically copied as much as they could other lifts. I mean, there were lots of Hall T-bars around that were basically like this. We didn't buy any parts from Hall, to my knowledge, but it's possible we did. I don't think so. But again, I was pretty young at the time, but they made it and it worked. And again, we moved it years later just because it was there was a better spot to put it. It's still visible from the parking lot.
You said you moved it a few years later?
Yeah, it moved over towards the fifth line.
Okay.
Probably late 60s. And then I know it moved when in 1970, probably when we put up the big T-bar, because it was not this cobbled together thing. It was some of the parts from that and a drive terminal from Timberland Ellicott, who made the T-bar that we bought. So Dad was selling these things all around Ontario at that time. So he just said, we need a new drive terminal. So we got a drive terminal. The other one was tossed in the garbage.
Now, when you say drive terminal, is that at the top of the hill or the bottom?
It's at the bottom. That's where the motor was, the electric motor and the gear reducer.
Okay.
And the big bull wheel.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got a picture of you and three of your buddies there. I think it's actually we were talking about looking at some pictures. So let me go at
that was the original T-bar.
At the screensaver here and see if I can find what was.
We were lubricating the cable or taking the bars off, I guess, at that time, and just kibitzing around and acting out.
Yeah, let me see. Where was that? I definitely had. No, it's not that picture. I do have that somewhere. I don't know where.
Well, it'll give you a good idea of the configuration of the T-bar drive terminal, a part of it, I guess. But I have pictures that I'll show you soon that give you a lot more detail of the bottom of that T-bar.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, because I'm gonna say you sent it to me.
Yeah. That's me and John and Bill.
So that's you.
Yep.
So what year do you think that was?
Well, it was either it would have been 1962, likely, because we built that T-bar really soon after we realized that people couldn't see our place and they didn't want to ski there if they couldn't see it.
Okay. And then who was this guy?
That's Phil Spires, my best buddy from high school.
Okay.
And another guy, John Guest, who was also a high school buddy. They used to come up and help. Like they would have planted trees with me. Some of those 20,000 trees we planted. Okay. They would have helped me plant those.
So these are all high school buddies.
Yep.
Now, did they, like as the years progressed, did they work at the resort at all in any capacity? Or
I don't think they ever worked there. However, we did plant trees. This was a summer effort. They lived 80 miles away in Brantford, and I don't think they had cars, so they couldn't come. But they also went to university after high school, and I did not. So they were off, doing university stuff. again, they could not work for us at home. There were other locals who did, however.
Right. All right. So I'm just trying to look in the background here. So obviously, I'm assuming that the fifth line would be off to the right.
Yep.
I don't really see any houses or anything else in the
No,
background.
if you look just to the left a little farther, you'd see Percy and Rosie's barn and their house
Okay.
just out of the picture.
So you essentially, so this is the driveway right back here.
Yep. The parking lot.
You still would have to literally turn into the off the fifth line in order to see this terminal.
If you look real hard, you could see it likely.
Okay, but if you started driving in the drive, at some point you're going to see.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that was kind of your objective to, like you were saying before, since they couldn't see the chalets because it was further back to the left.
It was well hidden.
Yeah.
That big thing behind me is the sign, the Valley Schuss, probably with a trail map. Actually, one of these other photos I just uncovered shows that sign, and I think it is a trail map.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't even recognize that. So that's
it should say, "Don't give up. Come on in. We actually do have a ski hill here."
Now, did you have a sign similar to that out on the fifth line or the Hockley Road?
I can't remember what we had at the Hockley Road. To be honest, I think we we did. We had one that faced both directions pretty much at the corner.
Okay.
Yeah, we had to have that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good picture. What is this like this bucket or whatever this is up here?
Well, yeah, that bucket is two things were going on here. See the T-bar to my right hanging on the cable.
Yep.
Normally those came off every spring, summer, but we were probably doing two things, maybe taking those bars off and lubricating the cable. The cables had to be basically soaked with oil once a year after the season was over. And the oil, it's called a rope lubricant. It soaks into the center where there's a fiber core, sisal or something like that in the middle to disperse the lubricant as the cable bends around the wheels. So it lubricated itself from inside, but you had to lubricate it. So we would hold that bucket underneath the cable and just basically pour a small stream of oil on top of the cable as it was running.
Gotcha.
It was quite messy work.
Yeah.
It dropped a certain amount of oil on the ground too, as I recall.
I'm assuming that was pretty important to keep that cable lubricated.
Very important. Very important. It had to be done.
Right. Okay.
I can remember doing it on the pommel lift various times. I mean, we did it on every cable every year.
Yeah. Do you remember who took this picture?
No, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So
says something about young men.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see here. All right, so I'm gonna try to find. Let me go look at something else here. I had a good picture. You referenced the pommel lift. And I found a good picture that I wanted to show you, and I thought it was of the pommel lift.
The drive terminal of the pommel lift was very different than the others. Believe it or not, that lift had 13 speeds, and the reason for that was that it would use less electricity if you started it on this low electricity consumption mode. So every time you started it up, it would go slowly. And then you would have to crank this crank 13 times before it would get up to full speed, which it did occasionally, and that was really fast.
Interesting. Well, while I'm looking for that other picture, I know on the previous episodes we talked about the purchase of the Bombardier.
Yeah, there it is.
I have some pictures. I'm assuming you're talking about this machine right here.
Yep. It had to, there's your dad running it.
Yeah. So what year did you guys purchase this?
Oh, we purchased it before the first winter, so it was in 1960, the summer of 60 that we bought it. Now, there's a bit of a story behind Bombardiers, maybe for another time, but again, that's up to you. I can talk about it at length, but
Yeah. Was that something locally that you guys were able to find, or do you remember where you
well,
found?
no, here's the story. That was made in Quebec, a place called Valcourt, Quebec, by this guy named Armand Bombardier, who was a smart design guy. I don't know exactly his history, but I think he was into track vehicles before that was designed. But he designed that. The story I heard was that his son had been injured somewhere up in Quebec in muskeg territory, and they had a hard time getting him out. So he went to work and designed this machine. It's called a muskeg tractor, 6-cylinder Chrysler industrial engine in the back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Very heavy duty. They still make them something like that even now. So this was available not directly from him, but through a company called Timberland Machines down in New York State somewhere, which led Dad eventually to working with an offshoot of that company, which is called Timberland Ellicott in Woodstock, Ontario. It's a long story, but they made ski lifts at my dad's suggestion for many years, and that's where our T-bar came from, and a few chairlifts and other things.
Okay.
Lots of ski lifts.
Yeah. So this is my dad up here.
Yeah.
This is my mother right here.
Okay.
Do you recognize anybody else in this picture?
That could even have been me, but I mean, he's got sunglasses on. I wouldn't put a name to anybody else other than your dad.
Okay. Yeah, I know that's my mom for sure. I just don't know if like this is maybe if this was 1960.
Oh, the little blonde-haired kid could have been one of my sister's sons, Colin.
Okay.
He had light hair when he was young.
Gotcha.
And it might even have been the little kid in your mother's lap. Is that you?
No, because I wasn't born until 62.
Okay, so that could be all three of Karen's kids, young, but Karen, if she sees this, she could probably tell you.
Okay.
She would have bought the clothing they're wearing.
Maybe she took the picture.
It could well be.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I got that picture of the bombardier. Let me see. I got. I thought I had another one.
Some people called it, the guys that worked there, they called it the bomb. Yeah, I have a story. See the blade on the front of the machine?
Well, that's what I'm trying to find another picture because
Yeah.
This is this blade.
Yeah, yeah. We used it for plowing snow on the parking lot, but occasionally we would use it on the slopes themselves to plow snow. It was very cumbersome and very slow, but mainly we towed rollers and various grooming implements behind the bombardier.
Right.
When I first drove that bombardier, maybe the second or third time, I was at the top of the hill and I decided to drive down Murray's Run with the blade on. So because you can see the track, how it angles up at the front.
Yep.
The front was so heavy with the blade. As soon as I drove over the brim of the hill on Murray's Run, the blade jammed into the ground and the thing stopped just like that. Boom. And the lid opened and my head went almost through the roof.
Oh, this lid popped open?
That's right. And the engine's belching black smoke, so it stopped. Took us quite a while to get it out, and I'm sure I got my hand slapped for that. But
now was it made as far as the fuel system and everything to be on those steep angles? Did it basically like fuel starvation?
They would put a deep oil reservoir on the bottom of the engine, like the pan would be modified.
Right.
Now, I think, having said that, there were quite a few of those around. I know up in Huntsville at Hidden Valley, they were the least expensive, let's call them grooming machines that you could get. So they had several, and they used to take the 6-cylinder engine out and they put a V8 in it.
Oh, wow.
And it would go really fast. The guys who drove it had great fun, I'm sure. It was like a hot rod with tracks. Anyway, we never did that. We had a 6-cylinder engine, and it drove, well, it didn't really like going fast anyway, so it was pretty slow. That row of wheels on that side, there's 2 wheels on each of those bogies on each side of the machine. So there are 8 wheels
Yes,
16 wheels on the machine altogether.
Oh, wow. So yeah, like 2, 4, 6, 8 on this side.
They were double. Each of those was doubled.
Wow.
You can't quite see the inside row.
Now, was that hard rubber, or were they inflated?
They were inflatable, and they took quite a beating, and boy, they were hard to change. If you had a flat, you had to curse and work all night long to get one of them off.
Yeah, I imagine.
And the tracks were problematic too. They weren't meant to be used as much as we did, like hour after hour after hour. So wherever the track went around the sprocket at the front of the machine, the rubber band, which is just like a really reinforced rubber conveyor belt type material, they would wear out and break between the two. See the aluminum backing plates, or they're steel there, but those little white things on top of the track, they had 2 bolts through each of them, fine thread. And if you had to patch the track, we periodically had to patch the track. You had to take out about 100 of these little bolts and fabricate some sort of a track, like get another piece of this belting material. It would take virtually all night long to repair the track, with 2 guys working hard.
You're talking about these pieces up top here?
Yeah, each of the cleats, the cleats are on the top there and the backing plates are underneath. So what you're seeing is the cleats.
Gotcha.
In our cases, the cleats didn't go all the way across the track. They went across the first section of it, and then they met in the middle. It was not the most easy machine to work on, but it did the job for us.
Yeah. All right, so there again in this picture, so there's my dad in the driver's seat.
Yeah, okay.
Here's my mom back here. That is Mr. Summerhays.
Okay, I got you.
So the car haze was the Carefoot and Summerhays right here, those two. I do not know who this guy is.
It might have been his son, but he looked a little old for his son at that time. His son was named Bounce.
Okay. It looks like there's a kid here, a kid there, these two, which I have no idea who they are.
Yeah, I don't know. That blonde woman is not one of my sister's children. The little blonde, probably not either. I mean, the woman would identify the kids, but that's not Karen.
Yeah, okay. One thing I did notice, though, and I don't know what Mr. Summerhays used to drive, but I'm pretty sure back here, that's the emblem of a Cadillac.
He drove good cars.
Yeah, so somebody was driving. I'm pretty sure that's the emblem of a Cadillac right there.
Likely.
I have no idea what kind of car this is.
I don't know. I'd say Chrysler, but
yeah, I mean, it may be another Cadillac slash.
They were all boats at that time. Everybody had these huge cars.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a boat. So, well, while we're here, the other thing that you mentioned was in the previous episodes was the chalet. So this was the original, or I guess the first phase of the original chalet that was built in 1960.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, the stone for that fireplace, we hauled in a truck that I think Carhays owned from up on the hill. Near the top of the hill, there was a barn. The farm that had been there was the remains of a barn. So we would haul stone in that truck through the summer, me and my friends or whomever, down, and Dad hired some sort of a mason to build the fireplace. We wanted a big fireplace because skiers were going to sit there and, warm their feet on it. Because most of them watched it go out. They didn't know enough to keep a fire going properly. So
I remember that was as a kid, but it seemed like it was a huge fireplace.
I think you could put a 4-foot long piece of wood in it, maybe 3 feet.
Yeah, I got a picture of where you have some wood that's cut up, and yeah, I would say it's probably 3 or 4 feet, but that's what I remember. So it was pretty impressive.
Well, yeah, when we cleared the trails, we set all the wood that looked like it was good burning wood. We would take it down the hill when we had the means to do that, or we'd stack it at the side of the trail and bring it down later. So we had lots of hardwood firewood. Oh, another thing you can see at the very back of the chalet behind the fireplace, that building is a garage, also probably from Summerhays, maybe even a kit, but that was originally intended as the place to put the bombardier at night or when it wasn't working. Turns out, because of the number of injuries / broken legs that would come down the hill in toboggans and then have to be hauled into the chalet right in front of all of the patrons, which was bad PR, we turned that into a first aid shack early on.
Interesting.
to hide the dead and injured.
So I never thought about that. So was that a pretty common occurrence for people to?
Well, usually first aid buildings were separate from the chalet, I think, for the same reasons.
Yeah.
There was another building just across in the background, backwards from that picture. It came originally from a real estate company in Orangeville, and somehow they bought this building. And I stayed in it during the first summer, but it was kind of a ski shop after a while. I don't remember what it was used for the first year, but might have been. I know we did some first aid stuff in that. Yeah, you didn't want people in a litter in the chalet.
So tell me about the construction of the chalet, like the materials. Who came up with the design? How did all that come together?
Well, true span from Frank Summerhays was the shape of the roof. You know, it was pretty well fixed. Like the steel went vertically up the side. It was a lattice steel truss, I guess, and right up to the top. It got thinner as it got to the top and bolted together at the top and braces back and forth. I remember putting them on. And inside, well, the siding outside was very inexpensive siding. It was just plywood, probably a quarter of an inch thick, ripped to, you know, like big long shingles. What do you call that kind of siding? I don't know, shiplap, but it was just plywood.
Yep.
And the windows, of course, came from, well, the glass was purchased through Carhays because they were in the window business at that time. They weren't finished. I mean, they were probably cut to shape in Brantford and hauled up there. And the ones at the bottom, the windows at the bottom are sliding windows that Carhays was selling at the time, sliding like ventilation windows. And the little angular braces on the front doors, they were made of aluminum because aluminum was their business, so they could get aluminum. Inside, the unique thing about that chalet was that I don't know who originally got into this, but I was at that time running around in my mother's Volkswagen looking for old stuff. And somehow we got the idea that we were going to get ox yokes, double oxen yoke, big chunky piece of wood with a loop that goes around the oxen's neck.
Yep.
So to pull plows and whatnot. So we bought 4 of those around Southern Ontario and converted them into lamps. They were like chandeliers in the chalet. They burnt in the fire, however, so they're no longer around.
Yeah.
Quite unique. Wow. Now you can see the true span trusses there.
Yep.
And you probably can see one of the lamps over there where your cursor is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, right here. It's kind of hard, but I can see what you're.
Yeah.
And then
they had lights on them over on the other one. There's a little.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one of the light fixtures.
Okay.
Oh, this is great. That countertop there, that was the original ski shop. It didn't sell much, so they converted it in that case into just a party palace.
Okay.
A bar. Gosh, I should know some of these people, but eventually
did you guys sell alcohol or just allow people to bring alcohol in?
We never had a liquor license, but we had parties for which we could occasionally get a liquor license. Otherwise, people brought their own.
Okay, so there were special occasions where you were able, or the resort was able to sell liquor?
That would be when somebody arranged to have a wedding reception or something like that, and they would look after getting the license, like it was one night only or that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
We knew later on, I mean, this is kind of obvious, but in that business, given the short season, if you didn't sell either real estate or booze or both, you went out of business.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't go wrong with booze. I do recognize.
Oh, that's Hansy in the middle of the picture, facing away with the coat with the
right here?
blue striper. That's Hans Henderson.
Okay. Yeah, that other picture that you and I were looking at, that I'm not sure, it's probably a different person. For everybody.
Yeah, he had short hair, but it was a little longer than the one in the other picture.
Yeah.
This would have been a New Year's Eve party.
Yeah. So my guess is this was either the 60, 61, 62 time.
Yep.
New Year's party. So I was going to point out, I do recognize This lady right here is my dad's sister, be my
Okay.
Aunt Margaret.
Yeah.
And I found out, I don't know, about 6 months ago, and now I'm looking at it. That's her husband, Uncle Matt, right there.
Okay, I can't
Oh,
see that for your picture, but that's okay.
yeah, it's kind of blurry, but that would be Uncle Matt. And then they had a son, Richard, who I know, and he told me, I haven't seen him in the picture, but he told me that he was also in one of these New Year's bashes. So
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I was at them trying to sleep upstairs.
Good luck on that one. Because you were like right over the top of the kitchen was right over here on the left-hand side.
It was a garret over the kitchen. I had to climb a ladder to get there.
Yeah, no, I remember that. That was a cool little spot there.
It was great. It was great. I liked it.
Um,
I could see everything. If I wanted to just look out the window, there's a big window. I could look down in the chalet and just watch the party and go to sleep when I needed to.
This is a picture I was trying to find earlier.
So right. So there's
yeah.
Those are the wow, that's great. I'm happy to see that. That counter there with the skis behind it, it eventually moved, and we added a room where that door is, so there was room for other stuff. The chalet would get pretty crowded at times, and selling stuff there didn't make any money at all. Certainly not selling skis.
Was this door right here? Were these restrooms right here?
Yep.
Okay. And was this door, did that eventually go to when your mom and dad had a place to live on the side of the chalet? Was that this side?
That door would not, well, that would have been a door out of the chalet, I suppose, before the addition was put on the chalet.
Right.
That addition had an apartment for mom and dad and another big room. We called it the hot stove room because Gordon Lennox, who worked for us, he turned up this really marvelous circular, cylindrical, old antique stove that we would fire up and people could lean their feet up on. It was really nice. So that was overflow space for skiers.
Okay. And then off to the left here, this would have been a kitchen in here.
Yep, that's the kitchen.
And
that's the garret.
yeah, above here is where you were living.
Yep.
Okay.
I could only stand up in the center part of it. I had to bend over on the way from the ladder to my bed.
Right.
It was adequate for me. It was fine.
Yeah. So what kind of wood was this that they had the inside?
Probably pine paneling from somewhere. I don't know.
Okay.
The paneling on my garret was barn boards. We tore down a barn locally to panel that wall above that knee wall there. But that was just local tongue and groove, I suspect.
Okay. What is this? What was the purpose?
Well, that was a cheapo ceiling that, I think we did put something over that later, maybe barn boards. I don't remember that.
Okay.
It would have reflected some heat back, I guess.
Yeah.
Basically, it was just insulation.
Yeah. No, I remember these light fixtures. Those were cool.
Yeah, they were. I think I grieved them more than anything when the chalet burnt. I watched it burn.
Did you?
Yeah.
I
cried.
That'd be painful. Yeah.
It was.
Let me see here. I was trying to find somewhere, like I said, I've got so many pictures. I had one that is like, oh, that's a good picture of the pommel lift, but this is a picture I like. How can you tell me about this picture?
Okay, and the very far left would be Murray's Run, just out of the frame.
Okay.
That's the Wendigo, I guess you could call it. And the very way down there, that would be the lift coming through the forest at the top of that hill.
Right here?
That's exactly where the bend was on the ski lift, right there.
So it would have been coming up this way?
No, more to the right.
Up this way?
Almost to the right corner of the picture, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Between the trees.
Gotcha. Okay.
You can see a few tree stumps cut down here. We would have cut those trees so we could, yeah, the Wendigo Trail, yeah, right in the very left-hand side of the picture right now is where you would have descended down this steep pitch right there.
Oh, okay.
If you shush from the top of the hill and you leapt off the top of that full speed, you'd land about 6 or 8 or 10 feet later,
Mm,
going really fast.
yeah.
Oh, the valley looks so different. They're all trees in the background there. There's hardly an open space in that
Yeah.
anymore.
Would this be the fifth line over here?
Yep, around that hill and way up to the top of the picture.
Okay.
Barney Moffat owned the farm on the left.
And then I'm assuming this would be the Hockley Valley Road down here.
No, that's a laneway going into his farm. You can't see the Hockley Valley Road in that picture. It's in the
Be
down in the
back-
center of the picture among the trees.
Would it be back over here, even further back?
No, down lower,
Low.
just above where the Pomelick bent.
Oh,
And the
okay.
angle of this is quite low, so the road was just hidden in trees. Yeah, through there. That little clearing, people had a summer cottage across the river. Their name was Trelaw, I think, but yeah, that's a neat picture. I haven't seen one quite that early on of that scene. And way off to the right there is the field going down to the big corner in the fifth line, the top of the third T-bar, the moved T-bar.
You talking about over here?
There, yeah, that's a little field. It was a field and it was still open. So you could ski all the way down right adjacent to the fifth line, and then get to the top of the first T-bar, went up high enough that somebody would ski past the upper terminal and down to the chalet. Actually, I think they moved the upper terminal because it was kind of, anyone skiing down to the chalet from the top of the hill had to cross the lift line, which was not the best idea. So we moved it for that and other reasons.
Yeah. No, that's a pretty picture, though. I'm assuming this is probably October-ish.
So this time of year, yeah.
Yeah.
It's early colors, but it's very pretty.
I'm trying to think, the last time I was up there, I was there in the fall, and I don't know the type of tree. It was more down at the bottom, and I think over this way, but it was like this really pretty yellow foliage. Is it like an aspen? Is it an aspen?
Well, poplar or aspen do turn yellow, the leaves.
Yeah.
That would be the only really yellow leaf. Well, maples sometimes are yellow, but
Yeah. But I just remember walking for, like, if this was, like you were saying, this was the lift line coming up here.
Yeah.
I was more at the bottom of the hill walking back around the
yeah, where your
chalet.
cursor is there now, that was the wetland along the Hockley Road. Like if you cut the branches off those trees, you'd see the Hockley Road pretty much where your cursor is.
Okay.
That was a wetland, quite a large wet area that we didn't do much with, but it was, swamp and cedar trees and other things. It floodplain from the river. The river wasn't far away.
Yeah, but that was part of the property that you owned?
Down to the Hockley Road, yes. The
Okay.
edge of the property was the road.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's a really pretty picture. You had let me go back to I want to look at your pictures because you had a really pretty picture too of the fall. And I think it might have been, let's see here. That's a pretty picture.
Yeah, that's pretty early on Murray's Run.
Is that okay? So that's at the top looking
Yeah,
up.
so when you went down the top of the hill, Murray's Run, it was steep and then not very steep at all. And just where the horizon is there, you'd stop there usually. There's several pictures taken of me and other people at that spot. And then down this sort of medium steep slope, and then a right into the black area in the picture there. But that's where the deck was.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Okay.
I turned up a picture today of people sitting there having their wine at the site of the deck before the deck was built.
Okay, that's fantastic because one of the things that got me started on this whole project is somebody I found on the interwebs that was asking about this deck. I don't remember this deck, but I was like, let me look at this picture and maybe you can help me. So I'm gonna transition here. What year do you remember these pictures in the wintertime being taken?
I don't know what year, but I judged mainly by the shape of the rows of cars in the parking lot. It changed. We had to level the parking lot and gravel it at one year, maybe 65 or 6 or something like that. And we actually, it was very muddy in the spring and people would get stuck in it all the time. I pulled hundreds of people out of the mud in that parking lot with the bombardier.
Um,
And you can see the house and barn of Rosie and Percy there on the right.
yep.
Yeah. But the gravel came from the very top of the hill.
Well, really?
Yeah. It was.
This to me looks like you had a pretty good turnout. There's a lot of cars. I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, we would go up, especially when we had a nice day and a lot of cars, because this was advertising.
Yeah.
This was whatever promotion, I guess is the term.
Yeah.
Cars parked way up towards the chalet, and we eventually had to stop that because it was just hard to get in and around them.
Yeah.
That's
So
the chalet.
Yep. So there's the chalet. So help me with my cursor. Where was the deck that you're referring to?
Oh, well, it's
So-
kind of hidden. No, go come down Murray's Run.
All right.
A little farther up. No, next trail over.
This one.
Yeah. And now you're entering the woods. Down, 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 down. That's where the deck was.
Oh, okay.
The trail bent right there.
Yeah. Now, whose idea was it to put the deck in?
The people who like to drink when they ski. I don't know. I remember early on, the Austrian guys, they were from Austria, and they were used to having a wineskin around their neck when they were skiing.
Right.
And not just them, but others would do it. And they'd like to stop somewhere. And that particular spot was very sunny in the afternoon. And you'd been halfway down the trail, and it was whatever. You didn't certainly need a liquor license to talk with your friends. I mean, a lot of people didn't want to ski all day long, so they'd watch the kids ski by and sit there and get drunk on wine or whatever.
Do you remember when that was put in?
Oh, I don't know, but it would have been at least 6 or 8 years after we started, but I really don't know that for sure.
Okay.
I remember sitting on it one year, long after the ski resort was defunct. I was in the winter, as I recall, I was sitting on that bench, leaning back, and here was a white weasel turned up looking at me. And we talked for a little while and it went away, but I don't think I've had such a close encounter with a weasel before.
Oh.
That didn't change the fate of Valley Schuss, but it was a cute story.
Yeah. So this deck, so was it, so yeah, I obviously had to run, and then
The deck would have been 16 feet long and 12 feet wide or something like that. It was a good deck.
so
with these
literally, it was just built right on the side of the trail.
Yep. The trail was wide enough at that spot to do it. And you could easily get around it. And actually, yeah, it's just that the trail happened to be plenty wide to handle it. I mean, the deck was tucked back into the trees. We might have had to cut a few trees down to make it. I'm not sure.
That's interesting. Because the Bruce Trail, so the fifth, would this be the fifth line somewhere over
farther over yet, right at the bottom of the picture. That white line going across the bottom, that's it. Go to your left, straight, yeah, no, that's the ski trail. Go farther down. That's the fifth line right there.
No kidding.
Yep, and well, you can just see it. I wish I could point to it, but I'm sorry, that is the fifth line part way up, and then it turns, and there's a really curved turn to your left. That's the top of the T-bar.
Okay.
That's where the road turns. Follow to the left. That's the road there.
Okay.
The steep, curvy hill.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the hairpin.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can follow it down through. Yeah.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can see the white spot.
Yep.
And then the bottom part is more obvious.
Yeah.
The other white things are, there would have been logging roads or something on that, quite a big hill on the left side. I wish we'd owned that.
Yeah, well, here's what I was trying to get to. So the last time I was up there, so we get to the top of the fifth line here, and then you start going up.
Yeah.
The Bruce Trail, probably somewhere around here starts where it goes across.
Yeah.
So I was really close to where that porch,
Deck was,
the deck.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna have to show that to me.
You have to bring a wineskin.
I'll find one.
Okay.
I wonder if that thing, if it's totally rotted out, or if we could find any remnants.
You might find a few bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time I was there, I don't know how many years ago it was. It was probably 20 years or more. There were trees growing all around Murray's Run, and the deck. I could find it, no problem. Whether there's anything left, there was very little steel in it except nails.
Yeah.
You
No,
might find some beer bottles.
yeah, yeah. I would definitely like to check that out, because I don't think that's going to be too far off the beaten path of the Bruce Trail there. All right. Well, this picture, man, I love this picture.
It's a good one, yeah.
It's got so much stuff. So
you can see the wildcat and the pussycat there.
So where are those at? Help me find those.
Well, find Murray's Run down, down, down.
Yep.
Above the deck.
Okay, down here.
And just up to your right. That's the wildcat. That's top, really steep part of the wildcat.
Right down here?
Yep. Right down to, it intersects with another trail we called the pussycat right there. It's hard to see, but it was there, quite narrow.
Okay.
And they joined the caribou a little farther down. You can just see the caribou beyond them. Right about there, they joined the three of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming came down through here?
Yep.
Okay. So what is this up here?
That's the steep trail on what I call the nub, but what did Mom call it? She had another name for it. That's where the cable tow went. It's probably in that picture, right down there. That's the cable you watched Dad at the top of.
Yeah. So it basically started here and went up here?
Right up to there, and it was really steep.
Yeah.
I pretty much, well, I logged that with the timberjack, got all the trees off and hidden in the woods at the bottom. But I remember being there with Bob Young, the bulldozing operator, when he made that trail. It was pretty hairy work the bulldozers are pretty stable. So, but have you, as a bulldozer driver, ever headed down a really steep ski trail with it?
No, I've never experienced anything that steep. That'd be a little nerve-wracking for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, this was the whole goal, was to get access to come down here, right?
For the experts who made a lot of noise, they didn't make all that much money, but all the hotshot skiers were always bugging us for more steep trails, especially when it became a private club. So the pressure mounted until, we knew more or less what we could do with that, but it wasn't particularly, the intermediate terrain was the moneymaker. The expert terrain was just to keep the fathers and the hotshot kids around while the kids skied on the easy runs.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Obviously, I remember being up here when you and your dad were working on lift, but that was some really steep terrain coming down here.
Yeah, I remember going down that when the Bombardier got sold and we bought a Thiokol Sprite, which was much more agile. I used to go down that. It was hard to get up because the cable tow was in the way. I had to do some really, whatever. It was not very convenient to get to the top up that trail. But then going down, boy, you went fast, and it was a real ride, like a circus.
I can imagine.
Sometimes it would slide. It would just be on like a little avalanche underneath it.
Yeah. I'm assuming you had to rely on all natural snow for this?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a steep piece of terrain. All right.
I can tell a lot about the timing by looking at the various planted trees, like up near where Dad's house was. There's some dark spots. They were planted early. Yeah, those.
Yep.
And along the fifth line, they're not so obvious right now, but you can sort of see the lines on either side of Murray's Run.
Right here.
Yeah, they're not too obvious in that photo, but
yeah, I love this picture. This is a great picture. So
it is good. Yeah.
So tell me about how you got this picture. So I'm assuming it was a beautiful winter day, or at least.
Well, it would have been a Sunday likely, in January when there was plenty of snow. And Dad and I would talk it over, or I'd say, "Hey, can I go to the airport and get a ride?" And it was one of the perks of the job. I got to do that. And it was a Lake aircraft with the engine that was pushed backwards, as I recall. Elton Townsend owned it, and he owned the little airway that ran out of the airport. So he'd fly me around in circles for a while till I was done with my photographing, and I'd go back with him every couple of years.
Did you have a pretty decent camera?
I just had a 35 millimeter camera.
Okay. Is this anything back here? I mean, this almost looks like a trail where my cursor is.
No, that's actually a ridge. Right there where those little black spots are at the end of yeah, that was a field, a farm field. We planted it to trees. It was more or less level, but if you go along that line, you're at the top of a ridge, but anywhere along there, if you turn to your right, you'd fall off basically a really steep trail, just like the top of the Wildcat, but they weren't very long. And they went down into what we call the bowl, which that was right there. There was a stream that started way up on the farm to the left, like an intermittent stream just in the spring. It went all down the valley just beyond that ridge. If you stood on that ridge, to your right, you'd look down into the bowl. To your left, you'd look out down into this washout, which happened during something called the Wisdom Flood in the 1890s, I think. A local heavy rainstorm made a lot of big gullies through that territory, and one of them was on our property. A couple of them were very deep. And I'll take you there when we go, but you can really see the change in the terrain because of this storm. It took whole trees all the way down into the Hockley Hills, Hockley Valley Ecology Retreat Center at the bottom of the hill off our property.
Yeah. There was eventually another T-bar that was put in somewhere over in here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. It went right along the near edge of the Wildcat and up to this hill right where those trees are. That's where it ended.
So like up this way?
Yep. Those trees are hemlock. That hillside is all hemlock. That's why it's dark. Yep.
So did it end up here somewhere?
Kept going through and just missed the top of the Wildcat. We had to bulldoze quite a bit there and across the Caribou Trail under or over another bridge. That was the second bridge we built.
Yeah.
Up to the top of the hill. It was a T-bar that had come from Twin Hearths. It was the first T-bar in the series that Dad basically instigated, built by this greening metal products company in Orangeville. And it was built for Doug Frid at Twin Hearths. It was the first non-rope tow other than our pommel lift in the valley. So this was a competition to see who could get the most modern and, fast, high capacity ski lifts. And Doug got the first T-bar. We had the first pommel lift.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Is this the actual line that the lift went this way?
Yeah, right at the base of that hill, kind of angled up along the side of the hill.
So where did it actually end at? Up as I'm going.
Keep going.
Yep.
See those black spots?
Yeah.
To the right end, to the right end of that black spot, right left a little bit, right there. That little white spot would be not it, but we used to occasionally ski down there. I think we had started to make a trail there before the lift ended up going there.
Interesting.
So to get to that from the top of the hill, you'd go to your right as if you're going down the Caribou, but you stayed on the top of that ridge that the bottom of which is black. Yeah, you could walk along there over to where your cursor is, but we didn't have trails there until later on. And that was because, one, it was becoming a private club and there was, I guess, enough money to do things like that. But Twin Hearths went out of business around that time. Doug sold it or whatever. And Dad ended up buying everything they had there. I don't think he bought the rope tows because they were kind of obsolete, but he bought the T-bar and a little slope grooming machine called a Bombardier Bombi. So he moved the T-bar. It was a very different kind of T-bar than some others, but really, really well made. So it ended up in Valley Schuss. So we had three T-bars actually at the end, and the rope tow that was and a cable tow and a rope tow.
Yeah.
Sounds very big to me, but
because the one thing I'm trying to figure out, the last time I was there, as I was walking across, I thought I came to the top of where a lift was.
Well, that would be it.
But it doesn't seem right to me that it was up here for some reason, because I'm just looking where the fifth or the Bruce Trail seemed like it, and unless it went this way and I didn't realize it.
Well, I guess it would. I'm just thinking of the terrain and the sorts of things that would make the Bruce Trail move, but I was not involved in designing the Bruce Trail in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The top of the lift is basically the top of that little white spot there is where the top of the lift was.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to figure out because, being under the canopy of the trees in the fall, I thought I saw, this part, but it's like, man.
Well, you may have gotten up there. That was quite a walk to get up there, but there
Yeah.
were footings of some sort up there.
But I thought I remember seeing something over in here where it looked like another bridge. So remember you and I were
But yeah,
talking.
there was another bridge. Yeah, just this is the that's the Wildcat you're on now. Okay.
Yep.
If you go to the left side of that clearing, keep going up and up and up. It's up towards that black spot. Right there is where the bridge was.
Where
Right there. Right there. The caribou went under the bridge.
Okay.
And the lift line went over it.
Well, that's where I was then. So all right. Yeah. I mean, I saw that. And the interesting thing is, as I was kind of putting all the clues to the puzzle together, I actually found all the footings for all the lift towers.
Okay, so they're intermediate towers, one somewhere near there, and the bigger ones at the top.
Yep.
Yeah, it was quite steep at the top as well. It was
Yep.
really nice, a nice skiing trail, really.
Yeah.
It wasn't the full vertical drop, but good enough.
Yeah, and I found where the lift ended at the top of the hill or whatever.
Yeah.
So that must have been so I had to be up here somewhere then. I wonder if the trail kind of went more like this.
I think that's the most logical route for it.
Okay.
Well away from that guy's house on top of the hill.
Yeah. See, in my mind, I was thinking it was going like this, like right across. But in reality, after talking to you and what I remember seeing, the trail must have went more like this.
Yeah. Right up at the top of that picture is this washed out valley that was hard to cross. Now the trail can go up and down all sorts of slopes, but my guess is the trail would cross up near that line across the top of your photo there, where you didn't have to go down into this deep gully.
Yeah. Because see, as we keep talking, I just keep putting all these pieces together because it'll be interesting when you and
right near there. That's roughly where the top terminal was.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting when you and I get together because I think they ended up taking a trail along the top of this ridge line.
Who are they? Oh, the Bruce Trail.
Yes.
That's possible. I don't know where it would go from there, but the Bruce Trail can go wherever it needs to go.
Yeah, I mean, it basically goes, across, it goes from the fifth line all the way over to the fourth line, but I bet you that's what I bet you I came across, I went like this, and then I'm almost positive it probably ran along this ridge line.
Well, I'm looking forward to walking the Bruce Trail there sometime. Between you and me, we may have to wait till spring, Harold, because this COVID-19 thing has gotten me really fearful.
Yeah, that's no problem. Whenever you're ready, you just let me know. But no, that's an awesome picture.
Yeah, it's good. So when I was up there in the plane, I was trying really hard to get all those good shots.
Yeah,
that's a good one too.
Yeah, I think the lower one was a little bit better, but basically,
that was a good day. I mean, we had like 60 or 80 cars in the parking lot.
Yeah, no, that's there's a lot of cars in this is a good picture here.
Yeah, way up. You can see that the property next door, they had ski lifts on that too. Up to the right of your picture,
yeah,
they had a little pommel lift up there, just beyond that black line, for 2 or 3 years.
Right here?
That was called, well, Hockley Valley Ecology Retreat Center later on. But both that one clearing there where your cursor is, and just across a little stream that came from our place. On the other side, there's another clearing, and that had a rope tow as well. A guy named Stanley had a little rope tow there and a bee business in the area. I knew him well.
Yeah. Wow. That's yeah, I love this picture. I spend a lot of time.
It's
Um,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, I walked around this property in the bottom. I know that those ridges quite well. I mean, I walked everywhere.
Yeah. The T-bar, the one T-bar over in here that we were talking about earlier. So that would that have been
That's
like,
that's the bottom right there, and the top is up where you weren't. Yeah, that's it.
okay, it basically went this
That
way.
trail was kind of a nice, yeah, that was a really nice trail, sort of intermediate terrain. You know, not long. None of them were terribly long, you know, with a good slope, but, and you can see that other steep trail that we made to the left of it, or to the right looking down. And yeah, right there is where the top of the other T-bar was. So it was in the way of people going down to the chalet from up the top of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you had to cross the lift line right where people were getting off, and it was just a traffic, you know, nightmare
Is
right
this
there.
is this the trail that you guys ended up making the bridge coming? Is it this trail? Was that a trail?
No, it's over. Well, you can't see it because it's in the black forested area between those clearings and Wendigo. You can see Wendigo.
Is that Wendigo
That's
there?
Wendigo.
Okay.
Yeah, and down in the valley, quite close to. Wait a minute.
Somewhere down
Yeah.
here.
Well, it ended there. That's where the bridge was, somewhere. Oh, this is a little hard to interpret. Yeah, because of the angle of the shot, you can't see a lot.
Yeah.
There was a valley, another washed out valley that we bulldozed. That's where our dump was. But you can't see that trail in that picture quite.
Okay.
That clearing, that white spot is the lift line itself, I think.
Let me see here. So the lift line, would this be a lift line coming down here?
Yeah, right there. And that's it. You're at the bottom pretty soon. And
So
right in there was the bridge that you can't see where it was.
Yeah.
No, it's just trees.
but would the bottom of the lift kind of been
About there.
yeah, okay. And I was just noticing that the chalet, what is this out in front?
I don't know.
That's interesting. It
We
looks like
never had a building there.
Yeah.
It's too unclear for me to tell you, but the chalet had the first edition, which was Mom and Dad's residence. And the second one was on the other side, looks all snowy now, but it was first just a basement first off with a flat roof. And then eventually it had the top on it, which made the whole thing look like gull wings
Right.
from a distance. And then there was another, beyond that, there was the shop, which was bottom floor too, and it never had a building on top of it. It had a parking lot on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this picture's got just so much information on it. It's just
Yeah.
So many little details, but
I'm trying to guess how old those trees are and why the ones up there look so much more mature than others.
these up
They
here.
were all planted within a 2-year span, I think. I don't think it went to 3 years. Some
Yeah.
did better than others.
You know what's amazing is the last time I was up here in 2019, like all along the fifth line, I mean, these trees are all so mature coming all the way down here.
Well, they'll be mixed with hardwoods as well, because that was basically a pasture, and all the trees that birch and others would have seeded that pasture quite thickly.
Yeah.
It's interesting to watch a forest that you knew as a pasture turn into forest. I mean, especially since I planted some of the trees.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome.